Welcome to By the Numbers, as you have come to expect from this particular program. It's designed to help you better understand the process when it comes to budgets. Now, some of our prior conversations we've had, we tried to do it on different levels, whether it's the town, the state, how they put their budgets together, how they consider funding. This next series of By the Number programs that you're going to watch, we're going to focus more on the two communities and what they're doing after the town meetings and getting ready for the next set of budget discussions for fiscal 2021, actually. And in the town of Whitman, what's even better is a discussion for long-term planning. So we have a series of guests that we're going to talk with about that. Again, the idea is to speak with the stakeholders who are involved in these processes, whether it's someone who is involved with the town or a town department. Today, we are fortunate to be speaking with Whitman Selectman, someone who is newly appointed to the town's recently formed Budget Override Evaluation Committee. We have Mr. Randy LaMattina joining us, sir.
Thanks for having me, Kevin. I appreciate it.
For folks who don't know you, other than being a town selectman, a board of selectmen, give us a little bit of your background as to what got you motivated to want to get involved with the municipality.
Well, I grew up here, loved this town, decided to raise my family here, and just involvement, low-key involvement with the town. That next thing you know, I took another step. I got on the finance committee. Loved my time there. Learned a lot. It is a great place if anyone looking to get into, town government, get involved. I recommend the finance committee. You will learn a lot very quickly. It is trial by fire, definitely. Then, with a talk with my wife and my daughter, we decided, maybe try that next step, and we ran for selectman, and fortunately we won, and here we sit today, now being appointed to another committee.
I think it's worth asking you, what have you found, what have you learned over your time, not only as a member of the FinCom, but then as the Board of Selectmen, the process of putting a budget together? What has that been like for you to get acclimated to that process?
Well, probably like many taxpayers at home, when I decided to get involved, it's probably was based out of a little bit of frustration, things that were going on, things that I didn't like in town that, you always say, well, this is what I would do. Well, I wanted to step up to the plate, kind of put my money where my mouth was and try to fix it. Being a little naive, you think you can just jump in, you have a great idea, you're going to accomplish it right away. It doesn't always happen that way. It's actually a little bit slower, it's a little bit tedious, and it's something you need to just plug away at. And if you think your idea will work, if you don't get it done the first month, you may not even get it done the first budget cycle. Look, we just had an issue, and I'm sure we'll talk about it at some point, with the debt exclusion. Well, that's something that I talked about 3 years ago. Things take time. And, fortunately, you just need to plug away and realize it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in a meeting. It may not happen in just one budget cycle. But if you're committed to what you think will work, you stick with it, and eventually you'll see it through.
What's it like being on the other side of the fence? You just described as wanting to get involved and have more knowledge, and I didn't understand it. And you're like going, I'm understanding the process. What's it like when you have people who might walk up to you and go, so Randy, what's going on with this? Why isn't it this simple? What's it like to be on that other side going, well, I was like you at one point in time. Talk us through that.
It's one of my key things was when I got involved, I thought there was a lot going on that I didn't understand, and I couldn't really find the information. It wasn't readily available. I think as a town, we've gotten better trying, especially in the last year, trying to get information out. And if people can get that information, they formulate better questions, things are easier to have a two-way conversation. You can provide information where they already have a little bit of a background. And recently I've been getting a lot of emails and messages that, people asking what's going on. But they have a very good foundation. You can definitely tell that people are paying attention and they're able to have a little bit more information to formulate better questions.
What was it like for this past budget process to put together a comprehensive plan for the fiscal year we're currently involved in?
It was a nightmare. I'm going to be honest with you. Since I've been involved, this was probably the most convoluted budget cycle I've seen. And I think there was a lot of misinformation, which led to a lot of people getting their guards up right away. And we didn't exactly, we saw a little bit of internal fighting. We saw definitely a lot of fighting among community members, on social media. But there was just a lot of misinformation out there. And the actual true information was basically a little late coming out, I think, on my end. We do need to do a better job. If we are going to talk overrides and debt exclusions, and we need to do a far better job getting the correct numbers out to people and what our path is going to be.
What was your thought when it was put forth about attempting a debt exclusion and then having not one, but two town meetings?
Well, like I spoke previously about, the debt exclusion was something that when I first got involved, with the finance committee, and I saw the way we were funding the police station and town hall renovations and fire station renovations really was kind of hamstringing town departments' growth. And it was something I keyed on that I thought it would be far better to get that outside of the levy limit. Again, like we had talked about, it was something that I had an idea almost 4 years ago to get everyone on board with that, to really get people to see that would work. Other people, I guess joining the crusade eventually worked, and that's going to be a good thing for the town.
There seemed to be like do you think that there might have initially, when they put forth the idea back in 2009, 2010, maybe it might have been even a little bit prior to that, 2008, the discussion about, okay, we need to move forward with that. The police department we have, the police department has outgrown that building. We need to do something to fix up town hall and the fire station. That the fear was the town was not necessarily forgiving or always wanting to, extend the taxes and do the debt exclusion, a form of an override.
Right.
Do you think that was why they decided to do it under the levy limit, because there would be less of a pushback?
There was a drastic need for a new police station. I mean, we had, for people that don't know exactly what was going on down there, the cells in the holding area were basically defunct. They were no longer meeting standards.
Yep.
There were just safety standards, not only for our officers, but for other personnel that just was not being met in that facility. Something had to be done. And you know what? The solution that was proposed, and it worked for a while, it worked for that time. Did we stay in that maybe a couple of years too long? Possibly. Yeah. But sometimes when you're faced with a situation, you need to come up with a solution, and that one worked for the time, and I think we've corrected it, and it'll be better for the taxpayers in the long run.
When the conversation about putting forth a debt exclusion for the recent town election was brought up, you were vocal in regards to if I'm going to push this, if I'm going to support this, I feel that this needs to be done in regards to the debt exclusion in those funds. What was your thought as to if this is passed, that those funds that are going to be dedicated to what they're dedicated for, and that's capital projects?
It is my concern. I don't want to see all of a sudden the taxpayers, dig again and not get something out of it. I drive around the town and I see a lot of roads, that in disarray, that we need to start doing something to them. Repairs, long-term repairs. We need to start looking at where we are going to be in 5 or 10 years. And we need to invest in our infrastructure better than we have been. So my goal is that we take that money and it's put back into things like stabilization. It's put back into capital projects rather than just being, one-time use, spent, filtered into the budget, and it's gone. We need to do a better job of capital planning, which, again, you see it unfolding now. Working with the Collins Center, we're going to have the capital report. Hopefully in the next month or so, you'll see a finalized version of that. And we'll have a very good idea of what capital projects are immediate and what are going to be future projects. And at least we will have some type of funding source to be able to start meeting those.
If you were able to have, you put your 2 cents in it for it to be considered, what do you feel are a couple of the top capital projects that there's a dire need? And this is just you kind of just suggesting, not saying this is we need to do this, do it now. Just your thoughts.
I honestly think we need to get a little bit more road work done than strictly what our chapter money, Chapter 90 money is affording us the opportunity to do right now. It's getting something done, but it's putting off other projects. What else?
How do you feel about the DPW building? I know that's something that the town has taken a couple of bites at the apple and hasn't been successful. They've tried different ways to come at this. Is that still something that's the top of the pile, or is this something that's kind of fallen down a few pegs?
Definitely at the top of the pile. I mean, we've, with OSHA now coming down with some more stringent regulations, I think the DPW is going to be one of those departments that are really affected by those. And a lot of the probably problems we're going to have are going to be associated with that building. So it's definitely something that needs to be addressed. And is it now the matter of maybe waiting a couple of years, see if we can squirrel away some of that money that we've gotten back, so we have a little bit bigger down payment towards a facility. I think, I know there's been some early talks. We've definitely brought down the cost of the facility from what was originally proposed 8 or 9 years ago. I think we can do it a little bit better, a little streamlined. It may not be all the bells and whistles, but I think it'll be a far better facility than what they're working in now.
Okay. As I teased during the introductions, you're one of the 11 that have been appointed to this new group called, and correct me if I'm wrong, Budget Override Evaluation Committee, or has that changed again?
I believe that
Okay.
that is still it.
Okay. What's the purpose of that committee?
Well, I think that the first meeting we're going to have to decide what the purpose of that committee is. My take on it is an informational committee. I don't think in the position that I'm in that I should be pushing an override, that I should be speaking against an override. I need to provide information. My goal is going to be, let's provide as much information as we can. Let's be able to answer as many questions as we can for the taxpayers. So when it comes time for the vote, people are confident in what they're voting in. Not to backtrack too much, but one of the issues that we saw with the debt exclusion was there was no number. When people went to vote on it, where was the exact number they were voting on? Couldn't have a number on it. It led to some discourse. We need to just provide information. Now, the school issues, it takes a different turn. When the committee finally gets established, I want to see what their take is on that. My take on the school issues is the school committee and Mr. Simonak, Mr. Ferro, their team, they need to provide a number. Now, obviously, that'll come back to this committee, and we're going to have to say, is this something we think can pass? Or is the number too large? And try working with them.
Well, it's interesting that I believe that Jeff Simonak is one of the 11, and also new school committee member Don Byers, who I think also was instrumental towards the tail end of putting together, finding out what was going on with assessed monies to the town. She was kind of instrumental in helping in that area. Talk to me about some of the people that are on this. You've got Tim Greno, fire chief. You got Bruce Martin. You've got a number, yourself and Justin Evans.
Right. Scott Lambiase, former selectman who switched over to the finance committee.
Veteran who's been added to the finance committee, and then you've got called up from finance committee. You got Justin Evans.
It's a great subset. I think we have every demographic, every interest coming together to try and get a collective positive outcome to provide information. We have some people that have had a little back and forth on social media regarding budgets.
You talking about citizen at large? Or you
So-
talking about somebody else?
We've had, I think one of the things I hope we avoid this budget cycle is apparent or things that look like infighting between departments. That needs to stop. The fire department, police department, DPW, Council on Aging, Board of Health, schools, we are collectively one town that all need to work together to function properly. Again, one thing I want to see is hopefully this committee, this evaluation committee, kind of brings that all together once and for all. That listen, we need to work together. Schools, fire, DPW. Enough of the infighting.
You mentioned social media, and it's interesting because a part of a previous conversations that we've had on this program, while social media is seen as it can be served the greater good, it also can cause more problems that aren't needed when a community is trying to solve problems, especially fiscal problems like this.
It's what I saw was a lot of misinformation being put out there. On the town end, I don't know if we did enough to correct it, the misinformation. Speaking to the town administrator, and I think going forward, we're going to do a far better job of getting more of our own information out there. It's...
Does it frustrate you as an elected official sometimes when you're the guy you're one of the many in the municipality or inside, what's going on, you have conversations with people, then you see stuff that's being put out there going, I don't know if that's right.
We've never even discussed, things I say, we've never even discussed that. That's never come up. Recently, I think it was just 3 or 4 days ago, I've already seen somebody post about what the override is going to be and actually put an amount out there. There is currently as we sit here, there is no amount. We don't know what we need. That's what we're going to try and do right now, starting Monday. So if you see any numbers out there, it's purely someone who doesn't have the information giving you a hypothetical.
It's almost as though, I've said this more than one time, and that is that if you had to take a test to be on social media, the numbers would be really low. They would be a lot less significant than they are now. I'll say is because sometimes people go on there's an entertainment value. Sometimes it's more to be mischievous. Sometimes it is to do good. But it's unfortunate that it's part of our evolving is when it comes to technology and things like that. Do you think that when it comes to an override, knowing that the town just passed a debt exclusion, is this going to be a steeper hill to climb if, in fact, it's something that your committee says, yes, this is the way we're going to need to go in order to be able to help ourselves for strategically long term?
Right. Definitely going to be a uphill battle. What I think people need to understand is this is not to provide wants and provide excess to departments. This really is to provide a level of sustainability over a course of 3, I hope even longer, 5 years, that we can maintain. I think we're at the point right now with the school department that we are not at a solid point where we can say this is sustainable for the next 5 years and we're not going to take any further steps back. We have given large sums of money to the school district. It's still not enough. Who's suffering? Ultimately, the children. When you're losing things like foreign language, when social emotional learning is not being properly, what's the word I'm looking for, taken care of. Those are issues.
Can I ask you, because I'm going to ask you this question, and that is do you think that a lot of folks who are voters in this community, let's expand it to, because it's a regional school district,
Right.
There's a lot of folks who, maybe they went through the school district 50 years ago, like, oh, well, we didn't need this. Do you kind of get where maybe there are some folks, and it's innocent in nature, don't see that things have evolved when it comes to the education that we give to our children is not the same as it was 20 years, 30 years, 40 years ago and beyond?
Having a child in the, right in the middle of her educational.
She's actually here in studio now.
She is, and
you can say hi, Claire, if you want.
Hello. She's met with challenges that I didn't have, and and I talked about this a little bit with some of the veterans on the Board of Selectmen. I think there's challenges that they don't even know exist because, I'm, I guess, hitting my mid-40s, and a couple of them are actually, late 60s, early 70s. Things that were my problems weren't theirs, but there is a whole new level of issues that, to be honest with you, that if I didn't have a child in the system,
you wouldn't know.
I wouldn't even be aware of. And it's things that we do need to address. Now, how we go about that, do we focus more on the state needs to pick up a bigger portion, or does the town need to step up and handle these things? Well, that's the debate. But ultimately, the kids are the ones, paying the price. But we need to make sure that kids, graduating from the Whitman Regional School District are able to be current and competitive and be able to blaze their own path and not, be behind when they do finally graduate from the district.
Yeah, go on to win a World Cup, something like that.
Exactly.
Something cool like that. Samantha Muse.
Big shout out. We do need to do a better job, but that being said, there are a lot of kids in the district that are able to get that extra help from parents, that are able to overcome these things on their own.
Yep.
So you hear a lot, well, we're sending kids to Ivy League schools, and we have World Cup winners, and we have, well, they probably had a little bit of help outside of the district, because I think right now the district's really stretched thin.
Is it worth mentioning, here we are in the midst of fiscal year 2020. We're close to a month in, and the state hasn't even settled. It hasn't even voted and approved, and the governor hasn't signed into law the fiscal 20. They're still in conference committee and working things out. Does that concern you as an elected official and somebody who's looking to be a part of a committee that's looking to set the course for the next 3 to 5 years financially?
Well, I know the target date for this information to be out, and I guess possible vote is October, but I'll be the first one to tell you, I don't see that happening. As we sit here, late July, we don't have numbers, which sets back the town numbers, which sets everything behind. And without having these numbers, you just, grasping at straws. So it's definitely going to put things behind. We need to know exactly what the school got. We need to know what the town's getting. We need to know our Chapter 90, Chapter 70. And it all hinges on the state, who is dropping the ball and really putting municipalities, cities and towns, behind.
We have a little less than 3 minutes left in the program, and I want to thank you again for joining us. I don't know if you want to touch upon again as far as the strategic plan that the Collins Center is going to be putting forth, any kind of a date or anything in closing you want to say in regards to serving on this new committee that's going to be meeting shortly.
I am. Hopefully we can get something done on this new committee. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to try to do what I can. 11 people will be like herding cats at times, and get information out there. And I think what I've seen, there's a lot of misinformation. I really want to stop the spread of misinformation. I want to see the town do a far better job of utilizing not only our own website, but really do a better job of us putting information out on Facebook, on the various platforms, Whitman Pride, Whitman Connection, from us, not third-party information that all of a sudden
materializes.
And you don't know where it came from. So I think that's my goal. I want to provide quality information that when the time comes, people are very confident what they're voting for.
I want to thank you for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
And I want to thank you for tuning in to programs like this. Your help is still needed when it comes to a program like this to help everybody understand what's going on with the process moving forward. If you have questions, if you have suggestions for topics or guests, info@WHCA.tv. That's your way of doing it. And until our next program, have a good day.